From CBS 47 and Fox 30, you're watching This Week in the 904.
Welcome to This Week in the 904. I'm your host, Emily Turner. This is a community affairs show. We focus on politics, public policy, and issues that affect our local communities here. And joining us today is former Mayor Lenny Curry. Welcome back to the set. Good to have you.
Good to be back.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
There's a lot to talk about.
A lot going on in City Hall.
Right now in the middle of a budget process, plenty of headlines, whether it's budget or otherwise. And one of the more recent ones has to do with Jaguars tickets and this whole back and forth. So for people who at home who may not understand how this works, when it comes to complimentary tickets, whether it's to concerts or Jags games, how does that process work?
So it's contractual. So the stadium, which is owned by the city and leased to the team, there's a lease agreement and a contract. The first one was signed in the 90s, obviously, when we got the team, and there's been multiple re-signings and amendments. Part of the original agreement and those ongoing include tickets that are given to the city of Jacksonville as part of that contractual agreement. Those tickets are under the control of the mayor's office. Historically, when I was mayor, and I know when there were previous mayors, those tickets were split certain ways between the mayor's office and council at the council's own discretion to either use for business leaders, council members can use them, mayors and members, staff. When I was in office, we kept a log and a record of anyone that requested and actually got a ticket.
And so one of the issues that's happening now is, I guess, if this has been happening for years, what's the problem now?
Well, I don't know as I understand it, so I'll just tell you my experience. So there used to be 2 city suites decades ago. Sometime before I came in, so council had a suite, the mayor's office had a suite. Before I came into office, they eliminated one of the suites and they had one suite for council and the mayor's office. So when I got in, we said, okay, half the tickets go to council to distribute how they want them. My office, we took the other half of the suite tickets and we gave them to a charity every week. Sometimes it was law enforcement, sometimes it was children's programs, military, you name it. We gave our suite tickets to a charity when I was in office. That was just a decision that we made.
And you guys logged who they went to?
Yes, you logged who the charity was or who had the request in. And then there's other tickets as well at football games and at concerts, and those come in at the request of people. My understanding what's happened recently, what I can tell you is we always split all of the tickets when I was in office, the football tickets, with the council. They had control and autonomy over those tickets. My understanding, what I've been told, is this fight started when the mayor's office said, we're taking all of the Jags tickets, we're taking control of all of them. You guys want your half, you have to ask us every Sunday. I believe that's where the fight started.
And so when it comes to this,
it's interesting, the narrative has been spun that the council are the bad guys and have tried to take control. The truth is, at least on that front, they were changing a long-standing handshake policy that says city council gets half of the football tickets to distribute as they see fit. Mayor's office gets their half.
Well, and we talked to political science professor Dr. Michael Bender from UNF about it and got his input. I want to get your take on what he had to say. Let's roll that bite.
I think there's some irony in them, right? Council members are all worked up about these free tickets, and they're the ones that are actually taking advantage of the privilege.
Because council is still responsible for significantly more tickets than the mayor's office, at least in the numbers that we got. How does that, what's your impression on that?
Well, I haven't seen the numbers, but I will say there are 19 council members. So you would expect their asks and their distribution of tickets to the community or whomever they're inviting to a game to be larger. But I would go back and tell you this. The mayor's office, I had it, controls the tickets. There has to be a request from the council, and the mayor's office approves that request for concerts and other shows. What I would tell you is that it depends on how I know we logged ticket requests and who got tickets. I don't know if that's happening with this administration. I don't think it is at that level of detail. But here's what should be happening if you're an elected official. You should be filing gift disclosures so people can see what tickets I got and what games I attended and what tickets I used, because every quarter I filed my gift disclosures with the state of Florida as required. So I saw a news report somewhere that the administration said that the mayor hasn't requested any tickets for Jags games. Well, that's a nuanced play. You don't have to request the tickets because they're sitting in your office and you get to pick them up and go to the suite every Sunday. And that's what's been happening. if we're being honest.
Well, she argues that she's got tickets on what, the north end zone or something?
Sure, but she sits in the suite, which is okay. Just own it. Put it on your gift disclosure. I assume it's on her gift disclosure. It needs to be. I mean, there's pictures almost every Sunday of her in the suite, standing overlooking the field. We know there's seats in there that have Mayor Donna Deegan reserved seats in the suite. It's okay. You have those tickets. You're allowed to use them. Just acknowledge that you've used them. Don't say you didn't request them. You used them. And then hopefully they're disclosed on your gift disclosure forms.
Did you do the same thing? Did you use the city suite?
I gave my tickets away to charities. I sat outside. I sat on the west side with no problems. Football fans don't care if there's a mayor sitting amongst them. They want to watch football. They're not there to see a politician. And I had a lot of fun. I certainly visited suites from time to time, but no, I want to watch football with the people. It's fun.
Why do you think, I mean, it's football tickets, and I know for some people that is like near and dear to their heart, but in the grand scheme of things, it's tickets. Why is this such a big deal? Why is this such a hot point?
People are struggling right now to make ends meet. People are struggling to pay for food. They're struggling to pay for gas. They're struggling with their property taxes. They're struggling with insurance. They're struggling with school costs. And so when they see benefits that are municipal in government, it's like another stab, given what they're going through. I understand that.
Is this
my point is, though, if you're an elected official, whatever you have access to, just follow the laws and the rules and the ethics. File the gift disclosures, own it, and be truthful about it.
Yeah, gift disclosures, writing down for a public records request now. When it comes to whether this is common practice, because when I was working in San Francisco, there was a huge brouhaha over Oakland City officials in the boxes for Warriors games, which is a very different price point than a box for the Jacksonville Jaguars game, right? Because they were winning at that time. The Warriors were all the rage. It's the Bay Area. Is this a pretty common practice? I mean, is this something that should be frowned upon, or is this normal?
I mean, I think it's a common. Yes, it is a common practice. Again, cities and municipalities that fund for and pay for stadiums and arenas have contractual agreements where they get certain tickets that are to be distributed at their discretion. What's happening now with the council and the mayor's office is a policy discussion. People can agree or disagree on that. And I think that's why you have an elected council. That's why you have an elected mayor, to have these policy fights and figure out which way the way to go.
One of the things.
Look, I was proud. I attended Jags games. I represented the city well. I cheered for our team, and I disclosed everything. And if I had to do it over again, I would do it over again. Council
President Kevin Carrico suggested, well, why don't we just do away with all of it? If we can't figure it out, like, we don't need any of it. Do you think that's the right move?
Look, I'm not going to weigh in. I didn't do it when I was mayor. I'm not going to do it now. I'm not going to weigh in on specific policy issues of the councils. I respect the debate and this discussion they're having. Here's what I do know, is I do know that they didn't pick this fight, but it's been portrayed publicly in certain media outlets that they picked this fight. From what I've been told, the mayor's office behind closed doors said, we're taking every single ticket. We no longer split them with you. You want them, you request. And that's when council reacted, and now here we are in a big public fight.
Well, that seems to be Jacksonville politics as of late, does it not? All right, well, when we come back from this break, we're going to talk about, you mentioned property taxes. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about more of the infighting and then the fighting between the executive and the legislative branch, so stick around.
From CBS 47 and Fox 30, you're watching This Week in the 904.
Welcome back to This Week in the 904. I'm your host, Emily Turner. Joining us today, former Mayor Lenny Curry. A lot is happening at City Hall, especially it seems to always be a little bit hotter under the collar during the budget process, which we're right in the middle of. One of the things that has been happening is there's been a lot of political rhetoric back and forth. What is your take on the divide between council and the mayor's office right now?
Well, first I would say I'm going to quote the late, great Sam Musa.
Okay.
He said, the mayor proposes, the council disposes. And we lived by that. Mayor proposes a budget, the council disposes of that budget. Council didn't agree with everything that I did. They have their debates, they have their finance committee meetings, and they make changes and recommendations. And that's what's happening now. That's normal. That's not political. It's convenient to say that's political if you're the mayor's office. So I just disagree with the politics. I don't think it's political. I think the council's doing their job.
When you were mayor, because obviously Democrat is the mayor, a supermajority of Republicans in council. When you were mayor as a Republican with Republican council, did you get this amount of pushback?
No, but we also had myself and members of my team that worked for me that were in constant communication with the council on our budget priorities before we presented the budget. Council people weren't surprised when I presented my budget. They knew exactly what was going to be in there. There was already a negotiation that had happened to understand their concerns. My understanding is that doesn't happen under this administration. They make a guess, they present a budget, and hope that everybody's happy and content with it.
So you're saying what's happening publicly now and playing out in the news and with sound bites would have happened perhaps less theatrically behind closed doors?
Should have been happening for 3 months before the budget was presented, in discussions with the mayor's office and individual council members to make sure that, again, what's your priorities? These are our priorities. How do we reach some agreement so we don't have to get in a big public fight?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, we've talked to her, she's had several press gaggles, and I want to play a soundbite for you that she said, where she basically is saying a lot of this is theatrics that's meant to be divisive.
It is a distraction from what we're actually dealing with here, like so much of what we're talking about right now.
What is your take? You think that this is theatrical and political, or do you think there's actually...
I think it's insulting to call it theatrical, because every disagreement the council has had with this administration, there's been a press conference going back for over 2 years now where they hold a press conference and says this is all theatrical and it's all politics. At what point does the council get to disagree with the administration saying this is a legitimate disagreement versus this is political? One day council's political, the next day it's DC. This week they were talking about how it's Tallahassee. Like, which is it? Maybe these members of council actually have philosophical beliefs in the way government should function, the size of government, what they should and should not fund. And maybe that should be respected by the administration and having an honest debate.
It's interesting because there are some Republicans on council who seem more willing, very few, that to have a conversation. Matt Carlucci, for example, has made a public comment saying, let's tone down the rhetoric and have a meeting of the minds and cross the aisle a little bit. Is there space for that, or is this just something that, look, we are oil and water and that's not going to happen?
Policy disagreement. People were elected on what they believe from a policy perspective and philosophically, and those debates and discussions should happen. The city council is not a rubber stamp for the mayor's office. I lived it as well. You have to negotiate, you have to find common ground. That stuff should be happening months before a budget is presented.
When it comes to the budget...
By the way, and people will probably forget this, but if you go back 10 years, this was the exact tug of war that was happening with the Brown administration and the council. They could not, they gutted his budgets because his budgets were presented without buy-in from the council. And
he lasted one term. When it comes to...
You said it.
I mean,
it's true. It's true.
It is. I mean, it's not about... It's a fact. It has nothing to do with anything other than he was 4 years in the mayor and then he was elected out.
He was running about a 70% approval rating when I ran against him, for the record.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I was not here.
Unbeatable.
I was not here at the time. I had left the market at that point. But when it comes to the budget, I mean, do you think the priorities that she's laid out are what should be the priorities for the city?
I don't disagree. There's many priorities of this mayor that I don't agree with, but that's okay. She was elected, and so she should absolutely submit in a budget the priorities that she cares about, and then has to have a negotiation and a debate with the council. Back to Sam Musa, mayor proposes, council disposes. That is the democratic process in our city. And it should be respected, as it has been for decades.
At what point do you think this is just going to be the next budget year and the next budget year? I mean, for the remainder of her term, is it going to just be at loggerheads?
Well, I think the big fight right now is property taxes. The council has proposed a property tax cut. The mayor has mocked it and said that it's insignificant. It's not real money in people's pockets. She's even made a statement that only half the people in the city own homes, so really who cares? I mean, what kind of message is that to voters and people that pay property taxes? So I support the tax cut. So I did a property tax cut before I left office. This council is proposing a property tax cut. I think this is only the beginning. I think they need to cut property tax, pass it this year and cut property taxes again next year. So I expect that fight to continue.
The problem you have with that, though, because the big headline out of the budget year last year was property tax revenue isn't climbing gangbusters like it was before. And so at some point,
But it's climbing.
is going to outpace. But remember, that was the whole issue last year, is that it came back and we were thinking we were going to have this, big delta.
Right.
And it wasn't. Because
So if I thought, I'm making this number up, if I thought I was going to get $100 in a property tax increase from a person, but I only got $40, I still got more than last year. Why should that person have to pay? They still got a tax increase if they have to pay more this year than they paid last year, because the assessments and the appraisals went up. So look, people are hurting right now. I was recently at a gas station, and the lady in front of me was trying to pay for gas, and her credit card didn't work. I was too behind. The person behind the lady said, "Here's $20 to fill up your tank." Paid for the gas, walked out. When I got to the register, the lady behind the register, I'm guessing in her 70s, working her butt off, looked at me and said, "I scrambled to put $5 in my gas tank this morning just to get to work this morning." This is what people are facing. Government has very few levers. We can't control the price of gas as local government. We can't control the price of groceries. We can't control the price of insurance as local government. You know what we can control? What we tax you, and that's property taxes. We should be cutting property taxes. And anybody that puts that down and dismisses it is not connected with what's happening with real families every day.
And I know you've run numbers on that, and we'll talk to that in just a second. We're going to come back right after this break, so stick around.
From CBS 47 and Fox 30, you're watching This Week in the 904.
Welcome back to This Week in the 904. I'm your host, Emily Turner, and we are here with former Mayor Lenny Curry. We were talking about property taxes. And I know you talk about the stories that you've seen, but there's actually, you said you've done research on a broader scale for property tax cuts.
Yeah, so there's other races happening around the state of Florida, and there's polling on this. People want tax relief. I mean, look, people want relief everywhere, because there's no question that it's expensive, more expensive to live today than it was in recent years. And I'm going to go back to what levers can government pull? Property tax. Let's think about property taxes. Someone is responsible enough to figure out how to buy a home, and then they're going to continue to be penalized on their asset because property values continue to go up. There's just something fundamentally wrong about that, and it's gotten out of control. And these are people that, again, are paying for schools, paying for their kids, paying to go back and forth to work, paying for groceries. I have heard the mayor's office talk about this property tax cut being immaterial to individual people. Go out and talk to a person in the street and ask them if $5 matters to them, if $10 matters to them, because it absolutely does. Now, I said before, I'll say it again. I did a property tax cut before I left, incremental. This council's proposed an incremental one. We need to keep going. And I expect one next year as well.
How will that financially work out, though? If you lower property taxes, you'll lower revenue, but the price of everything's going up. So at some point, aren't you going to cross over and end up in the red?
Priorities. Like, what are your priorities? A budget's a statement of priorities. The budget now is what? It's much higher than when I was in office.
Chunky, yeah.
Yeah, but the budget was even big when I was there. And I always said, when I started, it was 1.3 billion.
I think it's two. I don't know
Yeah.
the exact number. It's two something.
And my first year, I would say $1.3 billion is plenty to do what we need to do. It's about what are your priorities. You can't be all things to all people. And here's where I philosophically disagree with this administration. We can have these disagreements. We're elected on what we believe. They believe in redistribution of wealth. Taking property taxes, taking whatever fees you can, and redistribute those to programs that you believe are going to help people that need the help. I don't believe that. I believe there's a space for nonprofits that we support to do that, and a space for the private sector. I do not believe in redistributing the wealth of people to other folks, philosophically.
Mayor Deegan weighed in on this actually in a press gaggle earlier this week. Let's listen to what she had to say.
It doesn't make any sense to me that you could put something into the budget that is not a spending issue, first of all. But if you can, then why couldn't you also veto that provision if that? We're waiting on hearing from the general counsel on all that.
What does that mean?
Well,
do you understand that?
She's talking more specifically about.
That was like, I didn't understand that, I'm sorry.
She's talking more specifically about if they can't get along, if they can't have an agreement, if council does a certain, takes this part out, at least as I understand
Sure.
it, that could she potentially veto that? And it gets into this legal battle that is like the next step of this back and forth that they're happening now, which now general counsel is being pulled back into, which general counsel seems to be a job I wouldn't want these days.
Right.
Because poor guy gets caught in the crossfire of everything.
General counsel is not the personal attorney of the mayor. It's the general counsel of the entire city, consolidated city of Jacksonville.
Which is yet another argument that everybody's having at the moment. But Mayor Deegan is saying, to your point about, $300 or so, I forget the exact number that it would
Right.
affect each local homeowner, but it would be a few $100s. Her thought is to say it's only a few $100s that will be going towards the greater good for a much larger, I think the soundbite she said was fixing potholes and solving homelessness and that kind of thing. That if it's give a little, get a lot, as I understand it, is her position on this.
So back to what I said philosophically. The individual doesn't know how to spend their money better than government. We just philosophically disagree on that. I think the individual not only knows how to spend their money, they need to spend their money in a way just to make ends meet these days.
With her comment on a veto, have you ever been in that position where there's been a budget issue that you would?
I didn't issue any vetoes. There's not many mayors, in least recent history, that have issued vetoes. But look, so I don't know if she has the legal right. If she does have the legal right, and she disagrees with something in the budget, she should veto it, and then let the council decide if they want to override it. Let's have another fight.
What?
As we should. This is what democracy looks like.
It is, and this is also Jacksonville democracy. If that happens, I mean, if we can't come up with a budget, what is the deadline? August 1st? Is that right? I'm sorry, not August, October.
Yep.
If we can't agree on a budget by October, I mean, what position does that put us in?
I don't know what happens. I can't imagine we get there. But I would expect they're talking to their lawyers right now to make sure they understand the consequences and how to mitigate that situation. It's a responsible question to ask.
Well, apparently general counsel, according to the soundbite, has already been consulted, and they're waiting on hearing from him from that. When it comes to, I mean, at this point now, she's been in office, we're about halfway through her term, give or take. So at what point do you start changing your focus towards re-election and looking at securing the next 4 years?
I think that's an individual, she's got to assess her own political risk. I didn't feel like I had any political risk at this point in my term. I didn't even have the idea of an opponent until I think 3 or 4 months before the election. So that's up to her and her political consultants to determine whether or not there's political risk.
Well, and
is she vulnerable? They have their opinions, so
time
will tell.
There have been names that have been thrown around, one of which is yours. Is that something you're looking at doing, running again?
I think we need new blood. I had 8 years, was on the ballot twice, won both times. Actually won 3 times because we did pension reform on the ballot and got over 60% of the vote. So on the ballot 3 times in Jacksonville with significant wins every time, was elected chairman of the state Republican Party twice, local party multiple times, treasurer. I've never lost an election, but no, I think it's time for some new blood and some. I'll be supporting if the right person emerges.
Oh, well, you heard it here officially on the record. Well, I appreciate it, Mayor Curry. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll have you back again. In the meantime, stick around for another episode of This Week in the 904 next Sunday. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for watching This Week in the 904.